Hi guys, it's Ariana. Welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, we're going to be reading some more scary stories. So happy first day of October. I'm so excited that we are finally in spooky season. I mean, I've been in spooky season since like January because my whole house is decked out in like Halloween decor because that's just like my aesthetic. I'm excited that it is finally spooky season for everyone. So I'm super excited to read some scary stories. So I don't usually post videos on weekends, but you know what? I was bored today and I just felt like, you know, since it's October 1st, we might as well just pump out as much content as we can throughout this month. I will obviously be continuing to do this content outside of spooky season because this is what my content on my channel is now. You know what I mean? Like I kind of want to push out a shit ton of videos in October just because the spooky season, the magic is in the air and I'm so excited. So as per usual, I have my wicked candle in here. It smells like caramel apples. It smells so good. And then I have an actual candle that's lit today. It is from Bath & Body Works. It is the chocolate chip cookie candle and it smells wonderful. So I'm almost out of it. I didn't tip it over to show you guys because the wax is pretty melted already. It's been burning for a couple minutes. So I'm really excited to start another candle once this one is all the way through. I've picked up like 4 hot chocolate candles since they've released them this year. And they only released them in like the single wick candles, which kind of sucks because I like the 3 wick candles, but whatever. I got 4 hot chocolate candles and I'm so excited because that is my 10 out of 10 favorite scent from Bath & Body Works. So I'm very excited for their fall scents this year. They have a lot of pumpkin scents that I didn't really buy because I'm not really into that, but I picked up a lot of the hot chocolate ones because they're delicious. So I have a bunch of stories to read from Reddit, so I'm just gonna pull them up here quickly. If you guys are interested in the look that I did tonight, I literally just did quick eyeliner and some black lipstick. I didn't film it or anything. I didn't feel like doing TikTok today. I did a TikTok a couple days ago, so if you're interested in going to my TikTok and watching my TikToks, I lip sync or I tell my own scary stories that I find on the internet and I do my makeup while I do that. So if you're interested in that kind of content, go over to my TikTok. But here I just like reading stories because I can't really focus on doing makeup and reading a story at the same time. I just can't do it. Let's jump into the first scary story. So I have approval from a bunch of authors. I do have a couple emails that I need to read still, and I do have a couple Instagram DMs that I need to read on the channel here, but I'm just gonna go through Reddit today because it's just the easiest. So this one is titled Don't Drive Down Dirt Roads, and it is from the True Scary Story section, and it's from the Reddit author OK-Lemon4182. So this happened right before my 20th birthday when I was in the US Navy. I was stationed at a Navy school in SC, and the entirety of my enlistment close to Charleston, but not actually in the city. It wasn't uncommon for people with cars to drive into the city, and everyone was friends with someone with a car. Me and my class leader, who was a 22-year-old male, we'll call him P, were really close. We were friends with this New Yorker, also 19 and male, that I didn't like much. We'll call him T. But T had a car, so we ended up doing a lot together. One night, after all 3 of us had tanked an important test, I convinced them to go for ice cream. We decided on this little mom and pop shop on the far side of Charleston and all piled into T's truck. After we had gotten our ice cream, P went to start giving T directions. T couldn't find his way out of his shoebox, but T insisted he knew a shortcut and we needed to just enjoy the ride. We didn't have anything early the next day, so I figured, fuck it. This will probably be a funny story to tell later because T's gonna get us lost. So we were driving for at least twice as long as it would have taken us to get back to the base. But T keeps promising we're almost there. Meanwhile, we haven't seen a building in almost 10 miles, and the road is so dark, I feel like I'm looking into the abyss. T mentions that he has to pee, so P and I tell him just to pull over and take a leak. The road was lined with forest, and he had options to save his dignity. But he insisted on pulling all the way off to the road, and T finds a dirt road and turns down it. P and I just look at each other, and we both say he needs to stop. P and I are both from the South. While T grew up mostly in New York City, so P and I both know how real shoot first, ask questions later it can be. But T kept saying he was just gonna go a little further through the trees. I'm thinking about how we're going to get shot because I wanted ice cream when we break through the tree lines. About 20 yards in front of us was a big bonfire that was bright compared to the light of the new moon. Immediately, my stomach dropped, and P and I both started to scream at T to turn the fuck around. That's when we noticed the figures around the fire and those closing in around us. T was frozen in the driver's seat. So I reached into the front and put the truck in reverse while hitting him repeatedly in the shoulder. T slowly turned around to check behind him to back up, only for him to freeze again. I turned and saw more figures closing around the trail behind us. P, by now, had pulled out a flashlight and was trying to blind the figures while repeatedly telling T to just go and they'd move. So T started to slowly make his way back, while P's whipping his flashlight around, and I'm making sure all the doors are locked and rolling up the rear windows and closing the black sliding window. The crowd parted like they were Moses and we were the Red Sea, and we made it back to the road without any other problems. We rode the rest of the ride in almost complete silence. All three of us have never actually spoken about it since. The only thing that was said on the ride home was when P turned to me and said, "They didn't have faces." That's how the end of the story. Oh my God, that's sigh of goosebumps. That's so fucking creepy. They didn't have faces. What the fuck? You guys went down a dirt road that you like were lost completely, and there's just all of these figures in the dark without faces, like circling your vehicle. Fuck that. Oh my God, that's terrifying. So that was a true scary story. So I have no words. That's terrifying. Oh my God, what the fuck? That's no, thank you. So thank you so much for letting me read your story. That is horrifying. So the next one is from the paranormal side of TikTok, and it is from the Reddit user SunMoonStar89, and it is titled, "All That Glitters." Hey everyone, I'm hoping someone can give me some ideas about an incident that happened when I was a child. I was about 7 or 8 years old, and I was sleeping in my mom's bed with her, as I would have most nights. To give some context, my mom was a single parent, and for as long as I can remember, I have always sensed energies. I've had dreams that have come true, seen auras around people and strangers, and picked up their energies. I always felt like I was being watched in my childhood home. I have had so many incidents where I've seen people in the house, felt energies upstairs, etc. My entire childhood, every night, I would feel someone sitting on my bed. I could actually see the corner of the bed going down while someone sat there. I could feel cold air on my face and arms, and my hair would blow back, as if a window was open. This sounds like rubbish, but it genuinely happened every single night in that house. I didn't move out until I was 23. I could talk about so many strange things that happened in that house to both me and my mom. One night, when I was around 7 or 8 years old, I was terrified because the same routine happened in that I'd be laying in bed reading a book with my nightlight on, and I'd feel someone sitting on my bed. The cold air would start on my face and my hand as if someone was touching my hand, and my hair started to blow back a little, as if the window was opened. My mom would continually check the window for gaps in case that was what was causing the coldness, when I told her about it every single morning, but nothing was ever found wrong with the window. So the routine of me running into my mom's room every single night, terrified, occurred. While we were sitting talking on her bed, aka her trying to calm me down, what can only be described as glitter started falling from the ceiling. Instantly, I felt calm and happy. I put my hand out and started trying to catch the glitter, but as soon as I did, it would disappear from my hand. I looked right at my mom and she said, "I see it too." We both laughed. We didn't even question what was happening or where on earth this random glitter was coming from. We both felt so happy, so calm, and it was absolutely bizarre. After that night, my mom started to talk about things that would happen to her, such as feeling energies, seeing auras, how she was sometimes visited by an angel called Michael, who told her things that came true. He told her he was her guardian, and on a visit one night, when I was a late teenager, he told her that once a building in our area was built, that she would be told that she had terminal cancer. Everything he told her was exactly true. And that would be because she had a job to do in the other Vale, so they needed to call her home. Again, I sound crazy, but there was no mention of this particular building for us to know about. When we got a letter through the door 6 or 7 years later to say it was being built, we both screamed. She told me that she would have dreams that came true and told me she didn't want to tell me at such a young age. But after that night with the glitter, she knew it was time that I knew that I wasn't going crazy because the same stuff happened to her and the other girls in my family, my great-nan, my gran, and my cousin. Again, I'll write another post soon about more experiences that I've had because after reading other posts in this community, I'm so glad to be able to talk to others who have experienced similar things and that don't look at you like you're insane when you try to talk about your experiences. If anyone has any clue what happened that night with the glitter, please let me know. I'd love to know if it's ever happened to anyone else. Mom and I often spoke about that night. It was one of our last conversations together before she passed away, just like Michael had told her from terminal cancer. And that's how they ended the story. So I'm so sorry that you lost your mom. That is absolutely devastating, and that is just awful. I feel so bad for you. It's a really cool story that you guys experienced the glitter together and that you both experienced auras and just like energies and like all of that stuff. That's really cool that it just like runs through your family and like people in your family experience that. That is absolutely cool. So if anybody has any idea of what that could be, let me know in the comments down below, or go to her Reddit and you guys can comment on her post, or you guys can message her directly from the Spoopy Cjades section. And this one is from Mari0498 and it is titled, I Know I Heard That. Okay, so this happened a couple of years ago after a while of moving into the house I currently still live in. For some context, my house is old and built kind of backwards. So if you are on the street by my driveway, leads to the door that goes to the kitchen, and on the other side of the house is the front door, but we don't use it. So one night, I was watching TV with my door open, and my mom was in the kitchen cooking. I heard her calling me, and I answered her back. After several times of this back and forth, I decided to get up and go ask her what the hell she wanted. When I got to the kitchen and saw her cooking, I asked her why she was calling me. She then looked at me confused as to why I was in the kitchen. She then told me that she was not calling me and that I could have swore I had heard her calling me. I know that I hear about this stuff that happens a lot, but that was one of the times that I swore my mom was calling me. Also, I just remembered that my sister-in-law that used to live in my house with me said she encountered something similar with my voice. She said she heard me calling her and she was answering me, but that I kept calling her. When she went to go check, I either was asleep or I wasn't there at all. Besides those two incidents, I'm not aware of anything else that has happened in this house, but I'll be back if there has been other things. And that's how they ended the story. Thank you so much for letting me read your story. That's kind of creepy and something. I hate when things like use your name or use your voice and they like call you. It's just like too personal having like an entity using your own voice to freak you guys out, or calling your name, like knowing your name and calling you. It's just so fucking creepy. I don't like that. The next one that I want to read is again from Reddit, and it is from the paranormal section. And this one is from the Reddit user Dragon Forge, and this one's titled Haunted Childhood Home. I have a few stories about my old home we lived in from when I was born, 1987 to 1999. So the first story. I was about 8, so this would be around 1995. I was in bed one morning during the summer around 9 a.m. We had these old, cheap pull-down blinds, the type you pull down to allow it to release and open. I was just laying there after waking up and listening to the radio when the blind randomly shot up violently. I thought the blind had broke, but when my brother came in to see what had happened and what I had done, I told him I didn't do anything. I was away from the window on the edge of my bed. My brother, after I said that, got ghostly pale and told me to get out of the room now. I turn around and in the window, inside the house, not the outside, or a reflection in the window, is this demonic looking face. Being 8, I was not able to recall the details of the face, but from what I remember and from what my brother told me, he described years later, it looked like a mix of a zombie, a rotting goat, and the devil. After I saw this, both my sisters ran into the room to see what was going on, and both started screaming because they had seen it. My brother was trying to get all 3 of us out of the room while we were absolutely frozen in fear. The figure started running around the bed and tripped on the blankets and fell through the floor to the basement. My sister refused to talk about it to this day, and my bro did not see it. The basement of this house has always scared me. It was always dark no matter how many lights were on or if a flashlight was used. There was a cinder brick wall that went almost to the ceiling in there, minus 3 inches from the top. It was never closed off. This area and the area beyond the wall are right where my room was. I never crossed the wall, but my brother did, and he said all it was a dirt floor and what looked like bones. He wouldn't say anything more. Anyway, all was good for a few weeks. Then I woke up one night in summer and I was freezing. It was around 2 or 3 in the morning when I woke up and could not find any blankets on my bed. I turned on my light and all of my blankets are at the top corner of my room, 9 feet ceilings all through the house. And I mean, they were wadded into a ball floating in the top corner of my room. I called my mother, who was still awake, and she came in to ask me what was wrong. I just pointed, and at the same instant she turned to look, the blankets were thrown toward the doorway where we were at. Things stopped for about a month after that. About a month later, my sister started screaming in the middle of the night, and I'm talking a blood-curdling scream. We all woke up from her screaming, but none of us could move, both of my parents included. My room was next to my parents, so I could hear them screaming to my sister, asking what was going on and why can't we move. My sister only continued screaming. The only person who does not wake up is my other sister, who is in the same room. She slept through the entire ordeal. I hear my parents and my brother trying to get up to the extent that they are shaking the bed to get out of it, but they cannot move. It's like we were all held down by something. After about 15 to 20 minutes of this, we were released at the same time, and all of us ran into the living room towards my sister's room. Then both of my sisters ran out of the room. Sister 2 told us what had happened. She woke and saw someone floating over them with the face of a witch. Sister number 1 said she woke up and saw something go from above sister number 2 to the floor to the basement, but thought she was imagining things when she had woken up, but heard all of the screaming, and that's when all of us were able to get up and move. This was all that ever was spoken of this event until I just typed it up. So that's all they said about the story, but they put a little pop-up at the end that said, "These are both true stories, and I'm sorry not a whole lot of detail, but I was young, so I'm sure some of the memories are suppressed, as all of these were very traumatic to me. I'm 35 now, and my parents are just now starting to talk about the events of that house, so there will be more." So we are at the 20-minute mark, so I think I'm gonna go to Instagram right now and see if I can find one more story to read. So thank you so much to the Dragon Forge for allowing me to read your story. That was really creepy, and I don't know what I would even do in that situation. Your sister didn't wake up at all in that entire event. That's terrifying. Like, holy shit. How do you sleep through that? I don't think I would be able to sleep through somebody screaming unless there's a reason she didn't wake up. So that's awful. So I'm going to read a story from my Instagram DMs. So this one starts with, there's no title obviously because it's a DM, and it says, "Just found your YouTube channel. I wanted to share my scary story. This story kind of has different parts to it, so it's not really one story, but it will be added up together. So when I was about 10, my grandma died. She was in hospice care and therefore died in her home. At that time, my cousin, her nephew, was living in her basement. He stayed there until he was able to afford a house with his fiance. I was best friends with his fiance's daughter. We were born on the same day, which is pretty cool. She told me that after my grandma died, she was convinced that my house was haunted. I honestly didn't blame her, as the house was quite large and old, and she'd lived there for a very long time. The basement, where my cousin lived, was pretty creepy and had a lot of different rooms outside of where my cousin was living, including a very noisy and old-fashioned laundry room and pantry. At the same time, my best friend, or step-cousin I guess, and I had a mutual friend, her previous best friend and my neighbor. Whenever we went on our camping trips or on vacation, our neighbor would come over and feed the cats and check on them and the house. After my grandma died, they were terrified to come to our house when it was empty. They tell me that they would see people in the window when walking over from their house. They said that they went upstairs to check the bedrooms and swear they saw someone in our spare room bed. They ran out of the house because they were really scared. I never thought it would make sense of my grandma to haunt our house, but it was such a coincidence, we don't know. Last and the creepiest to me, this is where my own experiences comes in. So one day I was home alone, just me and my pets. I realized it was time to feed the cats. When I went out to the room where I keep their food and dishes, they were acting strange. As usual, cats walk between your legs and make it nearly impossible to actually feed them. But instead, they were sitting right next to each other and facing the door. So when I walked into the room, we were all just staring at each other. It was weird. Before I could even really do anything, I heard someone whisper my name, Rhiannon. She has a little pronunciation how to say it. And now, my name is not a common one. It's not a word easily mistaken for other words. The closest thing to my name is another name, like Brianna, so I couldn't have mistaken my name. And remember, I was home alone with just the animals, and the animals were acting weird. After feeding the cats, I brought my dog around to check the whole house to make sure I was alone. Sure enough, there was no one home. No radios on or TVs. I'd paused the TV when I went to feed the cats. I've never been able to explain it since, but I distinctly remember that moment and can picture it in my head. It's the most paranormal experience I've ever had, and I feel like the situation, my best friend's feelings, and my neighbor's fears are all tied together. And I said, oh man, I fucking hate it when things whisper your name. Same thing happened to me when I was a kid, and it terrified me. So that's terrifying. Like I said in the last story, I fucking hate it when things know your name, when like paranormal things whisper your name or say your name. Like, it's just too personal. I don't like it. That's fucking terrifying. No, thank you at all. So thank you so much for allowing me to read your story. That is so fucking creepy, and I hate that. So I have another DM that I'm going to read. She starts us off by saying, I do want to remain anonymous, so I will obviously keep you anonymous. And her story starts with, I, a 20-year-old female, found out my father, 43-year-old male, was a devil worshiper. Growing up, I tell my parents about my imaginary friend, who bled from his eyes and lived under specifically my dad's SUV. He'd come around every once in a while, never did anything malicious, just hung around and we'd play. When my dad was 16, he sold his soul. In a back corner room in the house, my great-grandfather owned until he passed away about 6 or 7 years ago. So growing up, I'd stay weekends with my grandfather because he was partially blind. Anyways, no matter what, I hated going into that back room, especially at night. It wasn't until I was older, about 4 years ago, he opened up to me about his beliefs and what he had done at 16. Flash forward, he remarries and has 2 kids, my half-brother and sister. When my brother, now 11, was about 4, he was watching Gangnam Style when he looks at the closet and says, "Daddy, who's the scary guy in the closet? And why is he crying red?" Which were things I asked at his age apparently. There was one day the PlayStation Connect even picked up a figure playing with my brother. He was on the couch alone. But what got me was when he said, "I'm playing with a friend," to me later. My sister, now 8, did the same thing at the same age. He stays around until you're about 6 or 7, which is when I remember when I stopped seeing him. May not be scary to most, but definitely scared us as little kids. I have a whole other story about the house that we lived in MN. I said, if you want to share your other stories, let me know. I'd love to read them. And she says she'll send them later. So I look forward to reading more of your stories later. And that is absolutely fucking terrifying. So thank you so much for sending me your stories. And I would hate to see an imaginary friend that cries blood. That's not very fun. No thanks. So these are all the stories that I'm going to read tonight because it is very hot in here. I can literally feel sweat dripping down my body because I am in like a long sleeve sweater because it's fairly cold out today because we are starting to get into that fall kind of weather. But with all of my lights in my studio and wearing like a pretty thick sweater-ish long sleeve shirt, I'm hot. So I'm going to go edit this video and post it immediately. So thank you so much to all of the authors that allowed me to read their stories. Thank you so much for all of the DMs that I read today. There's a bug in here. Oh my God. I'm so sick of these bugs. I just want winter to come. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you guys did enjoy this video, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below for more content like this, and I will see you guys at the next video. Bye.